Hey people, how are you doing today? I'm Makeda Valletta, also known as the Body Scientist. And right now I'm live on my IG page. I will save it and post it to my YouTube. In case you're unfamiliar with me, I am a strength and conditioning coach and a sports nutritionist. I have a background in exercise and sports science with a concentration in strength and conditioning. That's what my in a minor in sports nutrition. That was my undergrad work. Hey Mallory, missed you too, love. Then I completed a couple years in a grad program at Columbia in applied physiology and nutrition. And I'm a USA Olympic weightlifting coach. I'm a certified sports nutritionist. I am a certified strength and conditioning specialist, certified by the NSCA. And in case I'm a pole dance instructor, I'm a dancer, I'm a former athlete. But in case you don't know what a strength and conditioning coach is, okay, because exercise and sports science is a wide umbrella. So I want to explain what my specification is, okay? And then we're going to have a conversation about cannabis and exercise and sports performance, okay? So under the umbrella of exercise and sports science, you have a lot of different specialties, okay? And exercise science and sports science are two different things, okay? Because exercise is supposed to be safe and effective, right? You're not supposed to get injured when you're exercising. Safe and effective. Sports is not always safe, okay? There's a lot of things that people do in sports that are contraindicated in exercise because it can lead to injuries, right? And so there are certain inherent risks that come with sports, especially certain particular sports. Like if you're an Olympic ski jumper and you're you're skiing and jumping off of a cliff, you could break your neck, you could break your hip, you know? So the thing is that, hold on a second. So the thing is, so when you have, sports science is more about sports performance, helping somebody run faster, have more muscular endurance, be able to throw longer, increase their vertical jump, okay? What goes into the body performing at a high level, all right? And the mind of an athlete is different than the mind of somebody who's usually just exercising, okay? So they're not necessarily the same thing, all right? But then under the umbrella even of sports science, you have athletic trainers, right? Athletic trainers are people who are they're at the sidelines at the games, and as soon as the athlete gets injured, as soon as you see an athlete go down the football field, on the basketball court, on the track, the athletic trainers are the first to respond, okay? They run to that athlete, and they do manual muscle tests, which, let's say that the athlete hurt their ankle, their foot. The athletic trainer will twist the foot some different directions, and just from minor movements, the athletic trainer can tell what ligaments or what tendons are injured, what kind of injury it is. They can tell that without machines, okay? And then they are responsible for the athlete's rehab, okay? So they're like physical therapists, except the difference between an athletic trainer and a physical therapist is that an athletic trainer is focused on getting the athlete back on the field as quickly as possible, whereas a physical therapist is not thinking about speed in that way, okay? But it's basically physical therapy. So that's an athletic trainer. So a lot of people hear that term athletic trainer, they probably think that they train athletes, but that's not what they do, okay? I'm a strength and conditioning coach. You have strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning, what we do, strength and conditioning coaches, we take an athlete over the competitive season, and we design workouts in the weight room to increase performance and decrease injury, right? So we look at the common injuries to that sport or position. We look at the biomechanical and physiological demands of that sport or position, okay? And we develop workouts in the gym that's in a periodized method where, what you do on the off season is different than what you do in the in season, is different than what you do during championship times and preseason, because nobody's in peak condition every single day. If you try to be in peak condition every single day, you will overtrain yourself, right? So we don't want to overtrain ourselves. But you also have to, there's a science and an art behind training yourself in a way that on the days that you need to peak, the days that you have competitions, you need to peak. And especially when it's championship time or it's Olympic time, you need to be at your highest peak, okay? So there's okay, so you want to be able to run faster and jump higher and do it longer and throw it farther, right? You want to be able to do that, but you also want to prevent injuries, okay? So depending on the sport, track athlete wants to prevent hamstring tears. A baseball pitcher wants to prevent injury in their shoulders and their elbows, but they also want to throw harder, right? A female basketball player wants to prevent getting ACL injuries, which we are very commonly have, So there's exercises to help prevent those type of injuries, because sports put stress on our body. But it's not just sports. Life puts stress on our body, right? Physical activity puts stress on your body. And so and this is why strength training is important, okay? Because you're doing exercises to counteract the stress that's being put on the body and to increase the performance. So that has to do with loads and rest times and program design. Okay, so that's what a strength and conditioning coach is. I don't do physical therapy, but what I do is, once someone's done with physical therapy, I do post-rehab, because a physical therapist, their job is to restore full range of motion at a joint. Okay, so if you're fresh out of surgery, fresh out of an injury, and you might have been bandaged up, and now you've lost range of motion in that joint, the physical therapist gives you minor exercises to help restore full range of motion at the joint. Once you've done that, physical therapist can't help you anymore. At that point, you need to be strengthened. And the strength and conditioning coach, we strengthen from that point, right? So the two overlap. They two overlap, but they're not the same, okay? What I do is not the same as an athletic trainer or a physical therapist, but some of what we do overlaps, okay? Then you have exercise physiologists, okay, which is also one of my kind of specialties, but I haven't really worked in that field as much. But exercise physiology is dealing with the physiology of exercise. It's dealing with exercise and disease. It's dealing with, so it's like, or how different things affect our body. Like, what happens when you hike up thousands of feet up in the air, hundreds of feet up in the air? What happens if you hike up hundreds of feet in the air and then go deep water diving? The air pressure, how that affects the oxygen in your blood. Dealing with, like, somebody's diabetic, okay? Different physiological conditions, how exercise affects your physiology, okay? So basically, exercise physiology is applied physiology, because when people take a regular physiology class, they learn it for a stagnant body. Same thing with nutrition people. They learn it for a stagnant body. Sports nutrition is learning nutrition as it is applied to physical activity. And we all do physical activity, right? So that's important. And the average nutritionist doesn't understand sports nutrition, which means that they've learned nutrition for the stagnant body. They couldn't tell you, like, if you have to go, have swim practice 4 times a week and lift weights 4 times a week, and you need to go hard every day, what are you going to eat so that you can perform at your highest level, so you can recover, so you won't get dehydrated or have low blood sugar and faint, or so that you can get through it. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have gas when it's time to do whatever. There's the foods that you're eating and the timing of it. That's sports nutrition, right? That's my other specialty. I am a sports nutritionist. That's what sports nutritionists do, okay? So then you have biomechanists. And biomechanists are people who study, like, the physics of movement, okay? And they also develop things like prosthetic limbs or helmets or bats or certain equipment. And they're looking at the physics of movement, all right? So those are biomechanists, all right? So those are different umbrellas under exercise and sports science, right? So with that being said, a lot of you know that now I'm on this cannabis medicine journey, okay? And there's a lot that I've learned, but there's just a lot of experience and things that I have to say, because it's bringing everything that I've studied and done over the years together, okay? I do have a background in physiology, and that is muscle physiology. That is fat physiology. I understand metabolism, okay? Because metabolism is how your body, the biochemical reactions, the biochemical equations and reactions of how your body breaks something down and metabolizes it, okay? Utilizes it, let me say. That is where it stores it and how it gets it out when it's depleted. That's metabolism. And, being also, I play a lot of sports, but I'm also a dancer as well, right? And so dancing is an art form, but it's also very physical. It's almost like it's almost like sports, but it's not, because it's more the artistic thing and less competitive. But in terms of what your body is physically going through, it's a lot like athletics, okay? So with that being said, I'm just going to say that, I try to find research that has been done on exercise and cannabis or sports and cannabis, and I'm very unimpressed with a lot of things that I find, especially when I'm looking on YouTube. I see a lot of people reciting like certain myths that I'm sure the people who are saying this don't consume cannabis, okay? So one thing I'm going to say, when people say that consuming cannabis makes them paranoid and have the munchies and be giggly and all this like non-focused, that's usually people who are inexperienced with it. Like the first few times that you smoke weed, like that usually happens, right? But once you experience, people are not getting paranoid and losing focus and all that stuff, right? I mean, there could be a small sector of the population, but that's a huge exaggerated myth, okay? Because I hear a lot of people say that it messes with your balance and your coordination. I'm going to tell you as a dancer, right? Because playing sports is one thing, but when you're a dancer, it's about precision. You're looking at a choreographer. You are having to do exactly what they're doing, the way they do it, down to the small inflection of the finger, okay? Like when you play basketball, there's a technique for doing a layup, but everybody doesn't have to do the layup exactly the same way and point their toe exactly the same way at the same time on a certain rhythm and then bring their shoulders back. You know, it's like you do it how you do it. There's a certain technique. But as a dancer, you have to do exactly what that teacher or the choreographer is doing, not a variation of it. And you have to be very much tuned in to many parts, to every part of your body, down to your toes, to the bottom of your feet, to your fingers, to your shoulders, to every part of your body. Dance makes you pay attention to every single part of your body, right, and what it's doing. And then you could be doing dance that also involves jumps and agility and turns and levels and down and up. And you know what I'm saying? So the amount of coordination and precision you need to have be a dancer. And I know so many dancers who smoke cannabis. Like, and as an adult, when I was growing up, I did classical ballet and tap, right? As an adult, I've been a serious student of dances of the African diaspora. Stuff from Haiti, from Cuba, from Puerto Rico, from Colombia, from Peru, okay, from Dominican Republic, from Jamaica, from the American South, right? And these dances involve a lot of hip movements and shoulders and head, and everything's on a different rhythm. And I remember years ago, one of my favorite women, this dancer I know in the Bay Area, she and we used to, I wish I could go back to these days, but we used to go to very intense dance classes, dance intensely for 3 hours, stuff that most people couldn't do for 30 minutes, okay? Most people couldn't hang with this. And we would smoke before, we would smoke after. She's a highly intelligent woman, you know, and it has never messed up my coordination. I remember when I was in college, you know, because I didn't smoke weed when I was in high school, but when I was in college, I was a track athlete, and it definitely helped me focus. And it helped me to come down from, and I didn't smoke every day when I was in college, like, so it wasn't like all the time or anything, but I'm just saying, it helped me to come down from my workouts, right, as well. And I remember dudes on the football team, on the basketball team, we all smoked. When I smoked in college, I was smoking with my athlete friends, my male athlete friends, right? And, you know, so let me go through a couple things. Oh, and there was a study that said that 80% of cannabis users like to work out. And I know a lot of people who are into working out, okay, and they consume cannabis. And, you know, caffeine, I like caffeine, okay? Caffeine truly is addictive. Cannabis is not addictive. Caffeine truly is, but caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant, okay? And when you have a small amount of caffeine, it does help you focus. It helps your central nervous system stimulant, right? Our muscles are innervated by nerves. And so when you're stimulating your central nervous system, and you don't want to overstimulate it, that's what crack does, and coke, that's why they're so crazy, okay, and hyped up. You know, like, you don't want to overstimulate. That's why I said a small amount of caffeine, because too much caffeine is actually considered to be a performance-enhancing drug, okay? But small amounts of it helps to stimulate your central nervous system, and thus better help your focus, your muscular focus, your mental focus, okay? I feel like cannabis is the same thing for me, but it's just in a calming way. And the combination is great, okay? The combination to me is great. Now, cannabis can help with increasing your pain tolerance. And I hear a lot of YouTube bloggers say that that's not a good thing, that can lead to increased injury. I totally disagree with that, okay? Because I wouldn't even say that cannabis raises your tolerance for pain in terms of like injury pain. I would say it raises your tolerance for pain in terms of like when you're doing an intense workout, like I pole dance now, right? Pole dance is incredibly painful. People have no idea how much of that stuff on the pole actually really legit hurts, okay? But the more you pole, you start to just get used to the pain and you kind of get numb to it. At first, it's like you can go to a pole dance class of beginner pole dancers and everybody's yelling and screaming in pain. I still yell and scream in pain sometimes, okay? But it's like cannabis can make you maybe just mentally, because when I train people, there's something that I call physical fatigue and mental fatigue. And I know that when I'm training people, I note it down on the thing, whether or not, I don't always tell them, but I can tell my client when their fatigue is mental, meaning they just feel the burn and they just want to give up because it's burning now. Oh my God, I can't take it, it's burning, let me stop. Okay, that's mental fatigue. Physical fatigue is literally when their body literally cannot do it anymore. Their mind could be telling their body to do it and their body is not reacting. That's physical fatigue. An experienced trainer can recognize the difference. I can definitely recognize the difference, right? So I think that cannabis helps with mental fatigue tolerance, okay? It's not going to increase your chances of getting injured. That's a ridiculous claim, okay? And I've never seen anything that substantiates that. And then then some people try to say it takes away your reaction time. But yet, football players are smoking cannabis. Their reaction time is great. You got basketball players and top athletes across, like, damn near all the sports. Olympians, okay? And their reaction time is fine. So, again, I think that is for somebody, well, first of all, that can happen if you consume too many edibles. Now, smoking weed and consuming edibles, two different things, okay? When I was in college and athletes I knew, they weren't consuming edibles, they were smoking. Now, knowing what I know, depending on what you're using it for, sometimes you do need to consume it. But people that I know that consume cannabis for pain, and like if they have like a internal back injury, nerve pain, stuff like that, headaches, okay, you might need to consume it. But people who consume it for internal pain, they're not getting high off of it, okay? Like I smoke all the time, and when I consume oil, because I have CBD oil because I have a headache, CBD oil, even THC oil, it doesn't make me high, it just takes my pain away. I used to consume THC oil for a car accident I got into last year. My back, I could not even move. I couldn't even pick up my skillet. My back was hurting me so bad. It was internal nerve pain. And putting a teaspoon of THC in my tea every day is what really helped chill that out, okay? And to the point where I thought my back was never going to go back to normal. And I need my back. I'm a dancer. I'm a trainer. I need my body to function. I can't afford to have back injuries. And the way my back was, I thought maybe it was always going to bother me. But it's 100% better, and it didn't even take long. Okay, I never took one Advil or one Tylenol. Okay, so I think that's also ridiculous when it says, now if somebody consumes so much edibles, yes, that can mess up your reaction time, right? Because smoked cannabis and eating carboxylated cannabis, because you can eat non-carboxylated cannabis, which is the cannabinoids are in their acid forms, THCA, CBDA. Those are non-intoxicating, okay? And they also have a lot of beneficial effects. But if somebody's eating the carboxylated form, which means that heat was applied to make it into THC, which is intoxicating, then the way that's metabolized, okay, is very different, and how it affects you is very different than when you smoke it, okay? So this idea that athletes smoking weed is messing with their reaction time, negative, okay? Then, and I would love to see more research in this field. This may be what I decide to go on with my PhD. It either could be in looking at, really researching cannabis and its effects on our muscle physiology and stuff like that, or, and even the central nervous system, because the central nervous system has a lot to do with your power output and your strength as well, and muscle control, central nervous system. So either I would go that route, or I would go more into the nutrition route, and the endocannabinoid system and how nutrition affects that. So those are my two interests, because I'm already a nutrition, exercise, strength and conditioning person, sports, body performance person, right? So I could go either one of those directions in my research, because there's not enough research in this. But I'm talking about what I know from my background in these sciences and my experience as an athlete and a dancer, okay? So, okay, again, then people will say cannabis gives you the munchies. Now, it doesn't give me the munchies, but what it will do is there's times when I need to eat And maybe I've been running around too much. Like sometimes you just have such a busy, stressful day. You don't have time to eat. You might be traveling. You just got your brain. Like, I can't eat if I don't sit down and chill out. So sometimes there's days when I need to eat, but I just been too busy. And I'm like, okay, let me smoke first because it helps to calm me down. I can't eat unless I calm the fuck down. You know what I'm saying? So it could just calm me, and it not just calms me down, it calms down my digestive system. So I'm like, okay, it kind of just, all right, now let me eat, okay? But doesn't give me the munchies. Now, it might do that to somebody who is inexperienced. It might do that to somebody who already eats a lot of junk food, okay? Because I don't even eat junk food to begin with. I don't eat, when I walk past bakeries and I see a bunch of cakes and shit, donuts, it makes my stomach turn. I don't even like stuff like that. I like food. Okay, now I don't eat fast food. I don't care how much weed I smoke. I'm never going to eat McDonald's. I'm never going to eat Chick-fil-A. I'm never going to eat Burger King. I don't eat shit like that. I just don't at all. Okay, so now a lot of people have heard about the runner's high, right? So people here, which the runner's high is not just for runners, okay? It's also for it's people who people who engage in physical activities that make them feel really good afterwards, okay? So people who run a lot, who claim they love to run, and let me tell you, sometimes I don't really believe that because I'm like, who really likes to run? Anyway, some people might like to run. Running can be very damaging on your body, especially if you're running on concrete. If you're going to run, I think sprints are the best, but that's a whole other conversation. I've talked about it in other videos, but that's another conversation because too much distance running can cause you to lose muscle. It can be catabolic. We don't want to engage in catabolic exercise. We want to engage in anabolic exercise. Too much running can mess up your knees. And when you're running on concrete, just not a good thing. So if you're going to run, you need to run on some a grassy trail or some sand or something, okay? But the best running is sprints. Just remember that. So this runner's high, which to me, I got after when I lift weights, when I go to my dance classes, okay? Not just going out dancing. Going out dancing is cool. Dancing in my house is cool. But when I go to a dance class where the drums are there, and I'm like leaping across the floor, and I'm down, and my arms are going up, and I'm dancing hard, right? That completely makes me feel good. And for years, I would say that the way I dealt with trauma, when something really traumatic happens to me, the thing that I've always done was dance really hard, okay? Go to my Afro-diasporic dance classes. Go to an Afro-Brazilian dance class where you're shaking so hard, your feet are moving, feet. Haitian dance class. My hips are undulating. I'm shaking. My head is doing shit. My shoulders is doing shit. My feet are stomping on the ground. My mind is... My brain is in my hips, it's in my shoulders, it's in my feet, it's in my head. You know what I'm saying? And listen to these drums and having them aligned on each one, but also making it look easy and being graceful, okay? After all of that, whatever I was upset about or traumatized about, I feel so much better, I promise you. And that and cannabis and journaling. And for years, that has always been my go-to. I don't care how traumatic something is, I go to that. It's helped me get through some amazing things. Actually, when I started pole dancing in 2011 after something very traumatic, a very traumatic loss in my life. And I got into pole dancing because, to help me recover from that, to get my power back, my mojo back. And because pole dancing is so difficult that when I'm focusing on trying to climb this pole, I'm trying not to, or flip upside down, I'm trying not to get hurt, the shit hurts. And I can't focus on whatever it was that was stressing me out or broke my heart, right? And I'm making myself better. So that's always been my approach. But now learning about the endocannabinoid system, our body actually produces cannabinoids, which is similar to phytocannabinoids. The phytocannabinoids are what's in the plants, okay? The CBD and the THC, those are a couple of phytocannabinoids. There are several of them, but those are the most known. But our body also produces endocannabinoids, okay? So endocannabinoids are cannabinoids our body produces that are almost identical in composition to the phytocannabinoids, right? And I'm going to do a more in-depth video about that on my OnlyFans page, onlyfans.com /The Body Scientist. I'm going to do a very in-depth conversation about that because it's also a huge, important part of maintaining optimal health. Our endocannabinoid system modulates all of our other systems, our circulatory system, our respiratory, probably not the respiratory, but the immune system, lymphatic systems, all these other systems, right? So anyhow, the thing I wanted to say, the point is that this whole runner's high thing, they always said that it was caused by endorphins. They gave endorphins the credit, okay, for which are hormones that the body produces for this runner's high. But now research is showing that it's not the endorphins that's responsible for the runner's high. It's endocannabinoids. It is when we exercise and we work out hard, our body produces endocannabinoids. And that is what's making people feel good and have all this bliss. Research has shown that endorphins cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. Okay? But endocannabinoids can. All right? So it's really the endocannabinoids that are responsible. So again, dancing, working out, all that stuff, and doing things that you enjoy. If you like to play music, those things increase your endocannabinoid production, right? Okay? And that's one thing I want to get into, because that's one thing that really crosses paths with nutrition and exercise science. Because if our body's producing endocannabinoids because we exercise, that's in the realm of exercise science, right? Sports science. But what are endocannabinoids produced from? They're produced from fats that we consume, like arachidonic acid and the long-chain omega-3 fats, okay? Vitamin D plays a role, cholesterol plays a role, and how the neurons are working. That interacts with nutrition and physiology, right? So, again. And so, yeah. And so I just want to say that when it comes to sports, there's many applications. You know, cannabis is shown to be neuroprotective, as are the fats that endocannabinoids are made from, okay? So endocannabinoids made from arachidonic acid, critical for a healthy brain, a healthy functioning brain. Endocannabinoids are made from long-chain omega-3 fats, critical, okay, for a healthy brain. For your brain, both of those fats are important for your brain sending signals. It's important for the cell-to-cell junctions in your gut, and your brain health is connected, the hormones, the biome, okay? Also, you know, those fats are they help prevent Alzheimer's and all kinds of neurodegenerative diseases. People who have Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and Alzheimer's, trust and believe, I bet you their diet, they're not eating the right kinds of fats. They're probably eating a lot of canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, safflower oil, probably eating very little butter, very little tallow, very little cod oil, okay? If you know anybody with those illnesses, look at the fats they're eating, okay? Arachidonic acid is very high in egg yolks, in liver. There's some in butter, okay? It's in animal foods, all right? And the long-chain omega-3 fats are in seafood and grass-fed dairy, okay? So, animal fats, all right? So, anyhow, cannabis, you know, is neuroprotective. So if you have an athlete who's constantly getting hit in the head, it could be a boxer. Look, Mike Tyson has a cannabis brand. Another top athlete. So it's like some things you don't even have to research. You just got to use common sense. Really, cannabis messes up your reaction time, and what did they say? Messes up your reaction time and can, you know, cause injury because of pain. But then look at all these top athletes, well-performing, high-level athletes. So that can't be true, right? Michael Phelps was the most decorated American swimmer, smoking out of a bong. And you know what? Swimmers have the greatest lung capacity out of any athletes. Swimmers. And he was smoking out of a bong, and he was highly gold medaled up. So obviously it wasn't affecting his breathing. So can we just use common sense? Like, how about this approach to research? What can we learn about looking at the high-performing athletes that have been consuming cannabis? What can we learn from that? Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you just need to observe the obvious. Seriously. And a lot of people are reciting this propaganda, and it's annoying. People can't consume cannabis and operate a motor vehicle. First of all, I've never been in an accident in my entire life. My twin brother has never been in an accident in his entire life. My father, who, when he taught us how to drive, gave us serious safety rules, okay? Safety rules. My dad taught my brother and I how to drive. The first thing he said to me was, listen, cars are lethal weapons, okay? That was the first thing he said. So take this seriously when you're driving. He said, first of all, do not drive when you're sleepy. If you feel tired and you feel like you're going to fall asleep, I don't care where you're going, pull off the damn road and find someplace safe and go to sleep. Don't risk driving when you're tired, because it just takes a split second to fall asleep behind the wheel and kill yourself or somebody else. He said, do not drive behind trucks. Pass them, get the hell away from them, but do not drive behind trucks. So many people die because of shit that blows out the back of a truck, or you're driving next to a truck. He told me, don't pull over on the shoulder of the highway. I remember, ever since I was a kid, my parents would talk about how whole families have been wiped out by pulling over on the shoulder of the highway. Like, there's just certain things. My dad said, keep your eyes on the road at all time and both hands on the steering wheel. So when I'm driving, I hate when people drive. People drive now, they're making Instagram videos, which is so dangerous, okay? People are driving and they're looking at the person next to them. When I'm in the passenger seat, I'm like, don't look at me. Just look at the road. You don't need to look at me because you're talking. I can hear you. Look at the road, because something could change in a split second. And with that split second, you need all that time when something happens in front of you that's major in the road, right? So anyhow, my dad's been a cannabis smoker all my life. He's 80 years old. My twin brother, myself, never been in any type of accident. All right? And my dad works out. They said that 80% of people who consume cannabis works out. My dad is 80 years old. He works out, lives in New York City. He walks a lot. My twin brother is dedicated to his workouts. I work out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, these myths, it gets on my nerves. All right? But yet we have alcohol. You can get alcohol in the airport before you get on the plane. You can get alcohol on the plane. You can get alcohol when you get off the plane. You could buy alcohol in one place and fly with it wherever you want. But alcohol is what's killing people, so destructive. Okay, it causes people to go kill their wife, beat their wife, get into fights. Cannabis doesn't cause people. People don't smoke cannabis and start fighting people and going nuts and going home. That's not what they do. Okay? Whew. So I'm going to end that here, because I am in Ecuador right now, in Guayaquil, and I'm about to get myself together because I have to go to Cuenca, Ecuador. And so I need to end this video, but I have more things to talk about, okay? So I will be doing more videos in the next couple of days. I'm going to do some videos about food in Ecuador. I'm going to do some videos about cannabis in Ecuador, because it's legal here. But it's legal for people who live here to grow it and consume it. It's not legal to sell it or to buy it and stuff like that, but it's, greatly decriminalized. So I'm going to talk about some of those things. I just want to make sure I said everything about cannabis is a very good anti-inflammatory. It can replace NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which are like the Advil and stuff like that, which causes ulcers and prevents you from healing. And sports medicine doctors drug athletes up with NSAIDs. I myself almost got a horrible ulcer in college from taking NSAIDs for too long. Cannabis, is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, but it also helps your body heal. And if an athlete is using cannabis for an injury, smoking it is not how I would use it. I would use it topically, take an oil, use it topically, depending on the injury. Either use it, rub it in topically, or ingest the oil, depending on how deep the injury is and what kind of injury it is, right? Because even for a brain injury, it's massaging the oil massaging it on the scalp and letting it seep in that way is also another way, right? So there's different applications, like with every herb, depending on what you're using it for. Okay, but very neuroprotective, very, very potent anti-inflammatory, okay? And then another thing, I know another reason why I used to smoke, back then I didn't smoke before I ran a track meet, but I remember every time I had a track meet, my stomach would be in knots. A lot of track athletes, you get so nervous, more so than when I played basketball. I played basketball in high school, wasn't consuming cannabis in high school, but I remember getting really nervous, okay? So as an adult, as a dancer, I would always smoke before it was time for me to dance and perform, because it would help me get into my zone and help me calm and get into my zone. And it helps athletes with that too. When you're an experienced athlete, you know what you're doing. It helps you get calm and in your zone. If you're an athlete, if you do any kind of athletic stuff and you find that to be the case, please write that and share, okay? Because that's another thing. And as a dancer, which is very physical, but it's also an art, it helps me to get calm and into my artistic zone, but it also helps me get into the zone of being connected to my body, being very connected to my body, which is what dance is, right? I think I've said what I need to say. And I'm going to stop this here because I do have to go. If you learned something from this video, please like it. Please share it. Please share it with people you think it will help. And if you have anything to say on this, any experience with this, with exercise and sports and cannabis, please share. I will be doing more in-depth talks on this on my OnlyFans page, onlyfans.com/thebodyscientist. And I hope you guys have a great day. Move your body. Go lift some weights. Do something strenuous, okay? Don't let it waste away. Remember, if you don't use it, you lose it. Bye, people.